For my thoughts on all the latest happenings in the NFL in a completely relaxed, unscripted format, be sure to check out my channel, JG9 News. And now, on with our feature presentation. In 1997, the Kansas City Chiefs spent 2 of their first 3 draft picks on players from Cal, which is now, somehow, a school in the ACC, despite the fact that the ACC stands for Atlantic Coast Conference and California borders the Pacific Coast, because college sports and realignment make no sense anymore. The first of those 2 draft picks was this man right here. You may have heard of him before. This is Tony Gonzalez, and he might be the greatest tight end in the history of the National Football League. I could go on and on about just how good Gonzalez was, because he was absolutely spectacular. He made it to the Pro Bowl a whopping 14 times. He was named an AP First Team All-Pro 6 times. He made it onto the All-2000s team. He made it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on the very first ballot. And he ended his career with 1,325 receptions for 15,127 yards and 111 receiving touchdowns, ranking 3rd, 6th, and 8th in NFL history in those categories, respectively. He put up video game numbers. If you ask fans who the greatest tight end of all time is, while some might say Rob Gronkowski because his peak was otherworldly, a lot of fans would say it was Tony Gonzalez because he was a big help to every single offense that he ever played on. Speaking of being a big help, you can be a big help to the channel by hitting that like button down below, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you don't miss a single video that we post. We are so close to hitting 60,000 subscribers as we are trying to build the best football community on the platform to talk about all things NFL history all the time. So thanks in advance for your support. And while that draft pick out of Cal was great, the other draft pick that the Chiefs spent on a Cal player that year, well, not so much. Because the second man the Chiefs chose from that school in 1997 was this man right here, quarterback Pat Barnes, who would become, by far, the most successful quarterback in Chiefs history with a first name starting with Pat. And the reason why Barnes didn't work out with the Chiefs, and why it turned out to be a complete waste of a pick, just as seemingly every draft pick the Chiefs had in 1997 was minus Gonzalez, well, he did something that deserves a deep dive nearly 3 decades later, because he did something that not a lot of quarterbacks do, and he instantly regretted it. When a coach says jump, usually you say, how high? And when a coach tells you to play, you go out there and you play. But Pat Barnes had other ideas, and it ended up costing his career in a big-time way. Because this is the story behind Pat Barnes, and the quarterback on the Kansas City Chiefs who refused to compete. Before I talk about the actual controversy in question and the rationale behind it from the perspective of both parties, we need some context to understand just who this man right here, Pat Barnes, was in the first place, and why the Chiefs felt as though he could play in the NFL. The year is 1996, and there is one quarterback that is seemingly taking the country by storm over on the West Coast. That man was none other than Pat Barnes. Barnes was already solid in 1995, as he led the Pac-10 in passing yards and finished 2nd in the Pac-10 in passing touchdowns. But in 1996, he was on a whole other level, as there were few quarterbacks in college who could sling it better than this guy could. In 1996, Barnes ended the season with 3,499 yards, which was 1st in the Pac-10 and was 6th in the entire NCAA. Not only was that 1st in the Pac-10, but his 3,499 passing yards set a school record at the time for most passing yards in a single season, and would be a record standing for nearly 2 decades until Jared Goff broke it. Barnes became the first quarterback in school history to throw for over 3,000 yards in a single season. Barnes also ended the season by throwing for 31 touchdowns, setting a single-season school record at the time, and finishing 5th in the entire NCAA and 1st in the Pac-10. There was one particular game against Arizona where, in a 56-55 quadruple overtime victory, he threw all 8 touchdowns, setting a school record for most touchdown passes in a game. For some perspective, the single-season record at the time in Cal history was 21 passing touchdowns, and Barnes, with 31, nearly topped that by 50%. By the time Barnes left college, he held the all-time record in Cal history for career passing touchdowns, and his 1996 season where he threw 31 touchdowns was a record for the most passing touchdowns in a single season in Pac-10 history. Thanks to Barnes and his great play at quarterback, Cal was ranked at one point, and ended up making it to the Aloha Bowl after going 3-8 the previous year. So when the 1997 NFL Draft rolled around, it was clear that teams were going to be interested in the services of this man right here, Pat Barnes. And in the 4th round, with pick number 110, the Chiefs decided to be the team to make Barnes' NFL dreams come true, as the Cal quarterback was off the board. Said head coach Marty Schottenheimer on why the Chiefs drafted Barnes, as well as why they went heavy on offense, drafting 6 offensive players with all 6 draft picks. We wanted playmakers, and that's what we went after. These guys are going to enhance our ability on offense. The Chiefs liked the way he threw the ball. They liked his decision-making. They liked his familiarity with the offense. And even though Barnes didn't look great during Senior Bowl week due to a sprained wrist, they were willing to roll the dice in round 4, because even though they had their starting quarterback in Elvis Grbac and their backup quarterback in Rich Gannon, the talent was too good to pass up. Now, to the shock of no one, Barnes did not play at all in 1997 past the preseason. He wasn't getting any reps, and he was just sitting around every Sunday with nothing to do. There's a reason why you're not seeing him in any Chiefs gear right now. The Chiefs went 13-3 in 1997, but Barnes played a grand total of 0 snaps across the 17 games if we count the playoffs. However, in 1998, he would get an opportunity to play and show off what he could do, and at the very least, shake some rust off. Because in 1998, there was this thing during the spring called NFL Europe. The NFL had a developmental league to try and grow the game internationally and help out the players where you could play in the spring. And there were plenty of guys who were on NFL rosters and played in NFL Europe to show what they could do. Quarterback Jake Delhomme had an incredibly successful NFL career, guiding the Carolina Panthers to Super Bowl 38 during the 2003 season. Before he was on the Panthers, he was on the New Orleans Saints. And while on the Saints, he spent 2 seasons in Europe during the offseason, playing Spring Bowl in 1998 with the Amsterdam Admirals and playing Spring Bowl in 1999 with the Frankfurt Galaxy. Kurt Warner made it into the Hall of Fame and became a legend with the St. Louis Rams. After signing a futures contract with the team in late 1997, he played for the Amsterdam Admirals in 1998. Playing in NFL Europe was a completely normal thing to do for players who needed reps and needed a chance to prove themselves. And other Chiefs players were going to be doing the same in 1998, with guys like wide receiver Reggie Jones and defensive back Kwame Ellis being allocated to Europe for the 1998 offseason. And sure enough, Pat Barnes was one of those players. The idea for Barnes was that he could get some live reps in a competitive game, something that he hadn't done since college, and he could develop his skills there in a live setting, especially because he didn't get a ton of reps in practice. And when he did get reps, he wasn't great due to a pin in his right wrist. However, Barnes had other ideas, because instead of going to NFL Europe like the team asked him to, and instead of competing in a live setting, Pat Barnes said, "Nah, we're not going to do that." Instead, against the advice of the team, he didn't want to play, and instead, he wanted to stay in Kansas City and participate in the off-season workout program. The reason why he wanted to do this? Well, one of the big ones was that the Chiefs had a brand new offensive coordinator, so Barnes wanted to stay behind to learn the offense. In 1997, the offensive coordinator for Kansas City was Paul Hackett. However, in 1998, Hackett left the Chiefs to take the head coaching job at USC. This meant that the new offensive coordinator was Jimmy Ray, who was on the staff in 1997. So the offense was going to be pretty similar, seeing as this was an in-house promotion. And it's not as though Barnes was going to have a problem if he went to NFL Europe, learning the Kansas City offense when he got back. He would have plenty of time to do that, and the offense during that part of the year that he'd be missing isn't even fully installed. It's just basic bare bones things. Said Adam Teicher, a writer for the Kansas City Star, at the Chiefs' recent minicamp, the difference in results was noticeable between the passes of Barnes and those of veteran Billy Joe Tolliver, the only other quarterback present, and not in a good way. If the Chiefs had their way, Barnes wouldn't have been in Kansas City at all this spring. They asked him to get game experience by playing in NFL Europe. Barnes refused the assignment because he wanted to study the Chiefs' offense under new offensive coordinator Jimmy Ray and prove in person that he had overcome the wrist injury. But again, the logic employed by Barnes didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. Number one, you want to prove in person that you overcome the wrist injury? You can prove it better in a live game where you can get tackled versus in a practice where you got a red jersey on. But number two, you can study the Chiefs' offense anywhere. You don't have to be in Kansas City. Just pick up the playbook and study it. Have a question? There are 3 other teammates of yours on the Chiefs that are in NFL Europe if you don't want to make the call internationally. You can work with them, and they're in the exact same boat that you're in. You're already defying team orders by not playing in a live setting like they want you to. You have nothing to gain whatsoever by staying in Kansas City for the offseason. If you look good in practice, alright, you're supposed to look good. Nobody's playing tight defense. You've got the red jersey on, and it's just bare bones stuff. Look bad in practice? You're screwed. Either way, the front office already doesn't like you a lot because you did what they didn't want you to do. It's like if your boss wants you to go to a convention to learn about the new technology for the office and to network, and you think you're better suited to stay here, even though you don't do anything of value at the office right now. Don't be surprised if the boss hates you and you're now on thin ice. Refusing live reps and thinking you know what's best for the team and for your development? Yeah, that's a black mark on you for sure. And sure enough, this decision made by this man right here ended up backfiring in a big-time way. Because when it was time for roster cutdowns, the Chiefs, to the surprise of no one, cut Pat Barnes. In fact, he didn't even make it to the final cut. He got cut in the cut to 60 players, so not even the last one. And you can bet that when asked about the decision to move on from their 4th-round pick from the year before, the Chiefs cited Barnes' act of defiance. Said team president Carl Peterson, quite bluntly, "You've got to play in games." I'm not saying that might have made a difference, but the NFL Europe League would have given him the opportunity to play 10 games and maybe more with the playoffs. Here's a guy who had 31 touchdowns and 8 interceptions as a senior. But when you stop playing, you can orchestrate and practice all you want, but being in a live game in a stadium, with the pressure on, the more you experience that, the better chance you have of being a better player. And that makes a ton of sense when you put it like that. You can practice driving on empty roads all you want, and in a parking lot with no other cars in the lot. But I have no idea whether you're a good driver or not until you actually get on the highway. You can practice your teaching lessons all you want in an empty room, but I have no idea whether you're a good teacher or not until you actually interact with students. And the same thing applied here. You can throw in shorts in an uncompetitive environment all you want, but until you get on the field in a real game, I have no idea if you're good at quarterback. And for Barnes to refuse that opportunity was just a real head-scratcher, especially in a time where, for guys like him, it was the norm and it was expected. Again, the Chiefs wanted him to go to Europe. The Chiefs clearly felt that he wouldn't be missing a beat if he went to Europe from the perspective of picking up Jimmy Ray's new offense, however different it would have been from that of Hackett's in the first place. The Chiefs said, "You should do this. This is good for you, and you're not going to miss a beat. Trust us. This is the norm for guys like you." And for Barnes to refuse, that's exactly how you wind up drawing the attention of the front office in a really bad way. That's exactly how you wind up throwing a grand total of 0 passes for the team that drafted you throughout your entire career. That's exactly how, as a 4th-round pick who set school and Pac-10 records, you flame out in a year. The irony in the situation involving the man who got drafted by this team behind me right here is that in the 1999 offseason, Pat Barnes ended up playing in NFL Europe. So he learned his lesson pretty quickly, even if it was too little too late with regards to the team that drafted him. Barnes would eventually play in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers in 1999, reuniting with his former college coach, Steve Mariucci, in the Bay Area. However, he never threw a single pass in the NFL over his entire career, although he did play a bit in NFL Europe, the XFL, and the CFL, so he did play some pro football for a little period of time. You have to wonder how different his career would have been if he listened to Kansas City's orders in the 1998 offseason, but maybe he throws more than 0 passes in the NFL if he does. Who knows? Kansas City's history at drafting quarterbacks prior to eventually drafting Patrick Mahomes in 2017 was absolutely rough. And the drafting of Pat Barnes was yet another example of that horrible track record that they have had over the years. For a 4th-round pick to not even play a single snap with you, and a high 4th-round pick at that? Yeah, that's not good. And I have no idea what happens with Barnes and the Chiefs if he plays in NFL Europe. Maybe he buys time for an extra season. Maybe he lights it up on the field, impresses the Chiefs, and moves up on the depth chart. Heck, he looked all right in NFL Europe when he played in 1999. Maybe he stinks and gets re-injured. Who knows? But I do know this. When a team asks you to play, and you refuse to play, putting yourself above the interests of the team, that's the easiest way to get a one-way ticket out of the NFL. Because in 1998, for refusing to play in NFL Europe, despite the Kansas City Chiefs telling him to do so, the organization definitely did not give Pat Barnes any pats on the back. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jj9shop.com, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Join me every Wednesday night where we'll play NFL Trivia for cash prizes at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. To learn more about the history of college football, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To learn more about the history of Major League Baseball, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 7. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.